Hello viewers, welcome to today's episode of In Chambers with Mohammed Muigai. My name is Mofat Gashoka, an associate in the Banking, Finance and Real Estate Practice Group, and our guest today is Bella Onyango. She's a senior associate in the Banking, Finance and Real Estate Practice Group, and today we'll get to know some facts about Bella and also discuss some legal issues touching on conveyancing practice, that is conversion of titles and sectional properties. Karibu sana Bella.
Thank you.
How are you today?
Well, I'm okay. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Is your day coming along?
Oh, the day is marvelous. You know, we just voted today for LSK representatives. So the day is looking good and promising. Yeah.
Okay, so let's get to know some facts about Bella. So who is Bella?
Wow. Do you know, every time somebody asks me that question, I freeze. Because we have grown up knowing that when somebody asks about you, tell us about yourself, you are inclined to just say who you are and what you have done. So most of the time you'll find me saying, oh, my name is Bella, I'm a lawyer, I'm an advocate. But, well, maybe I can just tell you, my name is Bella, second born of 4, with 3 girls and a boy that I know of. I was born and brought up in Parklands. Really funny. Indian community. So everything was in Parklands. I was born in Parklands, Mpisha. I went to nursery school in Parklands. I went to my primary school in Parklands. Luckily, I escaped that. I went to a different location for my high school. But then I came back to Parklands for my LLB. So basically, I'm just a Parklands child. So that's what I can say about me. That's basically who I am.
That's quite interesting. It seems your life revolves around Parklands, and I'm curious to know, are you also married in Parklands?
Well, maybe. Yeah, but I did meet my spouse in Parklands. So Parklands is good, has been good to me. Next question.
Fair enough. So what does your typical day look like?
Yeah, typical days vary for me. I have 3 sets of typical days, and I'll just explain what that means. So I have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, which almost look alike, and then I have Thursday and Friday, then the weekend. So a typical day for me would be I wake up at around 4:30. I do a bit of studying. Maybe I forgot to mention that I'm an LLM candidate. I do some studying. Then I love sports. I really do love sports. Actually, fun fact, I swam in the national tournaments within the country, and some even led us to, the Commonwealth Games. That was way back. I'm not that old. But I wake up, I study a little bit, I take a walk, maybe 3 to 5 kilometer walk in the morning. Then I prepare myself, I go to the gym. Then I come to the office by 8. I'm an early riser, so I do that before 8. And that is my typical Monday through to Wednesday. Thursday and Friday are a bit happy-go-lucky. I may study or not because, sometimes work-life balance, but I still work. And then I come to office, just do my regular work, everything that I need to get done. And in the evening, I just go back home. I walk again or I go for a swim. It depends. So my typical day, Monday through to Fridays, what people can sometimes say boring. However, it works for me. Saturday and Sunday, I go to church. I'm a believer. Both days. I do go to church both days. And sometimes I am out and about, camping, traveling, just doing anything that will calm my my nerves and enlighten my spirit. So I'm a little bit of, I do a lot of everything. So I want to say sometimes I'm too busy, too busy, but it's a good thing, isn't it?
It is. That's quite a schedule. I think we can safely conclude that you are more of an all-rounded person. There is a lot of work-life balance in your schedule.
Well, I try sometimes. It's difficult to keep an actual work-life balance, but we do what works, and that works for me. Yeah.
Interesting. Now, I would like to know, do you have a bias towards a particular area of practice?
Wow. I think it's been so long since anybody asked me a question in relation to bias. But let me just give you a little bit of background on how I ended up studying law, actually. So, my mother has a brother, like her third born sibling, is my uncle. So my uncle is an advocate, and he practices in Mombasa. And when those days, they used to come to Nairobi for a lot of matters. And I remember his admission day, I was going with my mom to the Supreme Court. It was the High Court then, but I was going with her to Supreme Court, I think, to get the letters or something. So I asked my mom, what is this place? And she says, oh, this is the court. I asked, court? Why does that name sound familiar? What do people do in court? And she told me, oh, this is where people seek justice. They get justice. So why are we here? Do we need justice? And she laughs and she's like, no. I'm here for uncle's papers. He's going to become an advocate. I said, cool. So when we were going out, there were very nice cars parked outside. And I asked her, who parks here? And she says, these are judges' cars. I'm like, I'm going to be a judge. So that's what tickled my fancy at first. I mean, I still think I want to drive, big cars. And it was associated with this particular group of people. And they were judges. And I'm like, okay, so I'm going to be a judge one day and I'm going to park my car here. So that is what also just got me the drive to want to study law until I, joined. I've always just wanted to study law. And the other reason is my quest for justice, especially for people. I believe I'm an empath, and it could be a terrible thing because I feel for people so deeply. And when I was growing up, it was during the Moi era, and there were a lot of kidnappings during that time. And when we would turn on the TV in the evenings, we would see children missing, and their parents are crying, they're wailing, and they're going to court to seek for justice. And that would always hit so hard for me. And I was always in a place of wondering, how do these people feel? How are their parents feeling? And what can I do for them? So, growing up in a Christian home, or at a home where people go to church and we worship and fellowship, you always know that how do you help somebody else, somebody who is in need? And a need could be anything. And in this case, children were missing, so their parents needed to find them. That's a need for them. And I was like, are prayers enough? Can I just pray for them and wish their child would come back? And so in that, I built this thing. I really wanted to strongly stand for justice and fight for human rights, basically. So while I was undertaking my law studies, I thought I would delve into family law and children's rights. Until I handled matters in those areas, and it's not for the faint-hearted. I think my empathy was too deeply rooted that I would carry even clients' emotions and burdens. So I had really, really fancied that area of law. But with time, I just said, no, I can't do it because it's emotionally draining for me. So with that, I decided, okay, so what is another area of law that I could explore, which I equally really enjoyed and really liked, and that was real estate, conveyancing, real estate and construction. So that's where I put my focus to, and I've hit the ball running, and that's the area now I currently am in. It's been a good run. Yeah,
that's quite a detailed background, because we've gotten to understand why, what drove you to study law, and your current area of, so to speak, a bias towards conveyancing and real estate practice.
maybe I can add money. It's a good motivator. Do you know many people actually think that when you're dealing with when you're a conveyancing lawyer or dealing with real estate, that you have so much money? And I pray for those blessings. Let them come, a lot of money. So I think it's also a good way to also seek justice, because again, it also involves a lot of money, because you're buying and selling property, you're getting into contracts and land matters, disputes. So in as much as you're dealing with the financial aspect, there's also the justice side of it. Yeah.
Interesting. So that also touches on my next question, which is what fuels your passion for practice?
Money, 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 money. Yeah. Well, apart from money, that could be a dry joke. However, there's that need for clarity and the need to just help people acquire. So families are still involved. When you're buying property, you're not only just buying it for yourself, but even for your children, your grandchildren. So your family, your legacy, you're building your legacy. And so that really has been keeping me going, and just, getting justice. People have been swindled. People have been lied to. People have given their money because they thought they were buying parcels of land which do not exist. So some of these things are what motivates me every day to wake up and come and do the right thing. Yeah.
That's quite solid. Now, I would like us to delve into some live issues touching on conveyancing practice. And the first issue is conversion of titles. And I know some of our viewers may be wondering, what is this conversion of titles? There could be some proprietors somewhere who are hearing this term going around, and they do not really understand what it means. So what is conversion?
Basically, conversion is just migrating these titles from one previous regime to the current framework that has been set up. Yeah.
That's okay. So that means that essentially it's to harmonize, because there seems to have been several regimes previously, which may have maybe caused some, I don't want to say confusion, but there were a lot of things that were not aligned in the previous regimes, that now this conversion seeks to remedy. And so that we have one register under the current regimes. I believe it's under the laws that were enacted under the current Constitution of Kenya 2010.
Yes, including the Land Registration Act and the Land Act of 2012. So yes, indeed, conversion just came to cure that and just to harmonize this and have a centralized way of operating. Because you'll find that in the previous regime or the previous land registration acts that we had, you'd find parallel titles. So you find both you and I have a title deed to, a certain property, maybe land reference 123. You hold it as a proprietor. I also have a similar one, and we both bought them from different individuals. So I think conversion came to cure such things and confusions. Yes.
Great. So when does a proprietor know that they are supposed to convert their title? Is there something that needs to happen, or just it's something that someone just decides to do?
Most properties that are being converted, yes, conversion has been rolled out in Nairobi, Murang'a, some parts of Kiambu, and soon enough, Mombasa will also go live. And what they do is they gazette these properties on the government gazette. So there's a notice. So you'll see your title deed, the old reference number, and you'll see what the new title deed is. So they've come up with what we call like block systems, where in Nairobi, most properties will now be Nairobi stroke block 1 stroke, now the plot number. So you'll find that your property no longer is LR123. It now becomes Nairobi block 1 stroke 4. And then you're required to now convert that title to this current regime. So you will know because the property has been gazetted in the gazette notice for conversion. Yes.
Great. And how is this process of conversion initiated?
Okay, before we get to the process of the initiation of the conversion, even while the government was putting up this conversion in place, they also came up with the National Information Management of Land Systems, which we call Ardhi Sasa. And Ardhi Sasa is a government platform which now enables stakeholders to just understand and, what do you call it, to interact with the documents that the government holds in the registries. So first, on how to convert your property, you need to be registered on Ardhi Sasa and get your unique identifier number, which is called an Ardhi Sasa ID. When you have your Ardhi Sasa ID, then an advocate is the one who is going to help initiate the process of conversion. So we are very important people. So an advocate is going to make the application for conversion on Ardhi Sasa. And then you as the proprietor, you're going to accept. And then the old title deed is going to be submitted at the lands registry. And then after the process has been done, the digitization has been done, all the documents have been uploaded from the old registry, then you'll get a new title deed duly converted. So you no longer have the old title deed, you'll just have the 4-pager title deed with your name and your details there and the property number that has been gazetted. Yes, that is the process of conversion, how you go about it.
Great. So does this process of conversion have any timeline?
When you look at the gazette notice, they normally give around 90 days. I may be wrong. However, initially the government had called for everybody, people whose properties have been gazetted, to have them converted by a certain deadline. But because that was not feasible for many people, I think the deadline was extended for conversion. However, the actual process can take anywhere between 30 to 90 days. So the process is not very lengthy, depending on even how your records are at the registry. Yeah.
Interesting. So for proprietors whose titles have been gazetted for conversion, in the event that a proprietor does not initiate this conversion, what happens?
Now, again, I think it was a smart move to make people comply. When there's a government directive, many people just think, I'll just get away with it. I'll do it when I want to. However, conversion is very important because without converting your property, and now especially for the areas which have gone live, and specifically Nairobi, you'll find that without having your property converted, you're not able to transact with that property. You will not be able to sell it, or you'll not be able to sell it, so somebody cannot purchase. You cannot give it as collateral at the bank. It cannot be charged until this process has been completed. So I think it's very important for everybody to comply so that this is just a consequence. Your title, yes, you do have a title deed, but can you use it for anything? No. Is it recognized? Not really. It just exists.
So this is a very critical issue, because what I understand is that basically a proprietor becomes handicapped. If you do not convert, then There's nothing you can do with this property.
Oh, yes. Yes. There's nothing, absolutely nothing you can do with the property. You'll just have paper in your house, in your safe somewhere. And I mean, unless you convert it to comply with the government regulations and the rules that have been set out, honestly, you just have paper in the house. So it's a call to everybody, really, even our viewers, to counter check even with their parents to make sure that their properties have been converted with the new regime, to the new system that is. Yeah.
Great. And are there any challenges encountered in this process?
Yes, there are quite some challenges. And the same way with the analogy with your grandmother going to get water from the well, this particular system entirely happens online. So not many people are tech savvy. And apart from them not being tech savvy, it might also be difficult to explain why this needs to be done. That's just from like a proprietor's point of view. From a transactional point of view, the challenges on conversion would just be like delays, maybe even the system. The system, because it's an online platform, the system can break down because of maybe upgrades, because of bugs or whatever. But these are challenges that can be maneuvered, but they are still there. Everything has some teething problems, but once everything is streamlined, I believe everything's going to be okay. Yeah.
Correct. There is no new thing that doesn't have teething issues. And just as you rightly put it, we can maneuver through these challenges. And to our esteemed viewers, if there is any one of you who may be encountering any challenge with this conversion process, please do not hesitate to reach out to us. This is a process that we can assist you maneuver and have your title converted. Now, I would like us to move to our second issue, which is also live in the conveyancing practice. And this pertains to the Sectional Properties Act. So, what properties does this act apply to?
So the Sectional Properties Act applies to both freehold and leasehold properties, which have the intention of conferring ownership, and these for leases that are not less than 21 years. And they also are vertical and horizontal developments. So whatever we are seeing in the construction, so every unit will have what we call a sectional title. Yeah.
So this relates to mostly developments, could be vertical or horizontal. And the other key elements that I've noted is if it's a leasehold, there has to be an unexpired term of not less than 21 years.
Correct.
Yeah. And also there has to be an element of conferring ownership.
Yes.
Fantastic. So who is required to comply with this act?
Currently, as it is, everybody that owns property, let's say you own a sublease, you need to comply as a homeowner. Developers need to comply as they're constructing their units with the Sectional Properties Act, and many other stakeholders. As long as the intention is to transfer some sort of ownership, then the Sectional Properties Act comes to play. Yes.
You mentioned subleases. So currently there are existing subleases. What happens to those subleases in light of this Sectional Properties Act?
So the subleases, remember when we discussed about conversion. So even the subleases fall into that umbrella, where they're required to convert their subleases so that they can get their title deeds, which are certificates of leases. So under the Sectional Properties Act. So the subleases, the homeowners need to surrender those subleases, mainly done through the management companies, and then you'll get your individual sectional title as now in place of what you previously had, the sublease. Mm-hmm.
Another question will be, who initiates this process? Is there any similarity between the two, the conversion of titles and the sectional properties conversion, in terms of how the process is initiated and who initiates it?
Yes, quite similar. if I'm being honest, you need an advocate to do the conversion of your sublease as well. And they're done through the management company. So what has been happening is the management company will put out a notice to all the homeowners that there's going to be conversion that's going to take place on all their subleases. You're required to, submit your original subleases for the conversion process to begin. Again, you must have your Ardhi Sasa ID for you to be able to undertake this process, because it's entirely done on the Ardhi Sasa platform. And it is very important that everybody agrees to do that, because you don't want to have an obsolete title. You don't want to have a title that you cannot use. But you'll see that there are some properties which are exempt from the Sectional Properties Act. And these are phased developments and developments and or properties that are in what we call SEZs, special economic zones. These ones are exempt from complying with the Sectional Properties Act as it is. So they can confer ownership through long-term subleases. But this still will be registered on Ardhi Sasa. Yes.
And are there any advantages of sectional titles over the long-term subleases?
Yeah, quite many actually. You have autonomy in terms of ownership. It is your title. You know what you want to do with your title. Well, previously, when we had just the subleases, you find that anytime an owner wants to use the property as a collateral, there'll be very many stakeholders who will know their business. For example, you need the head lessor's consent to transfer or charge. You need the management company's consent, but with the conversion from the subleases now to get your own sectional title, is that autonomy. You can use your title deed without telling every Tom, Dick, and Harry that you're going to a bank to borrow funds. So there's that autonomy. And for maybe the maybe younger generation, we grew up in an era where a title deed was not a booklet, really. It was this is a title deed. It's just some paper. So this paper that you can have and you can see it, it's not a book where anybody can, maybe somebody can come and tear it apart or something, but it actually looks like a title deed. So there's no fear in owning a title deed. I've said the autonomy in having your title deed, and now you don't have fear that management, the developer will not transfer the reversionary interest, for example. That has been an issue also that has been happening. And also just proper management structure, because you know where or how your title deed has come from. So I think those are some of the advantages we have with the sectional properties. I mean, there's so many, but you can visit us in our offices. We are able to explain to you how to go about these processes as well, and even what will benefit our viewers as our clients here. Yes.
So what happens if a proprietor who holds a long-term sublease fails to convert that sublease to a sectional title?
Just like we have talked about the disadvantages of not converting, it is similar when it comes to the sectional properties, not complying with the Sectional Properties Act. So there are barriers to transactions, and you see you're not able to borrow, you're not able to sell the property. You're literally, again, as you said it, you're handicapped. You're not able to do anything with your property. So there's that transactional barrier when it comes with non-compliance. So, I mean, it's a good thing to comply. And if anybody is not sure on how to go about it, I mean, they can always come to Mohammed Muigai.
So what are the challenges encountered in this conversion of long-term subleases into sectional titles and the compliance of this act generally?
Sometimes it just boils down to the stakeholders, because there's so many there are so many parts of the puzzle that need to come together before you can comply. For example, the properties need to do something called georeferencing. That has to be done before the sectional titles can, the subleases can be converted. So there's just you can have delays in the management company initiating that process. There can be sometimes delays at the lands registry and the non-cooperation of some owners. Let's say, as we've said, most subleases come from buildings, like apartment owners. Yeah, they're the ones who own subleases. And you find that in a building that has maybe 25, 30 people, only 5 are willing to comply with the compliance, to comply with the regulations, that is. And so you find the non cooperation of the others will slow down the process because of it's quite expensive also. So these expenses will make people say, why should I do this thing if it's going to cost me more money? I mean, I used my money to buy this property. Why should I then use my money again to get it in order according to what the government wants me to get it to? So there's some of these challenges. I mean, again, you can get over them, but they're not easy, especially because it's not a very cheap process, especially for the homeowners. And the time frames, the delays that are occasioned can be a very big challenge. Yes.
Great. So to our viewers, there may be some of you who are also encountering some challenges in terms of compliance with the Sectional Properties Act. So do not hesitate to contact us. This is also a service that we render in our firm, and we will help you navigate these challenges. So as we approach the end of our session today, thank you for that insightful session. And there is a young advocate somewhere, probably recently admitted, or a law student somewhere, who has a view towards conveyancing, because conveyancing is very different from, in terms of what you interact with in the classroom and what happens in practice. There is someone who could be viewing it as not a very interesting area of practice. So what will be your advice to that young lawyer, that freshly admitted advocate, in terms of conveyancing practice?
One shoe does not fit all. And what one may fancy might not be what the other might fancy. But I would just advise anybody out there who wants to do conveyancing to go for it. It really is different on the ground. While you're practicing it, while you're there, it's very different from what you're reading in books, because different things come out of a transaction. You might think a transaction is going one way and it leads you to another thing, which leads to another thing. So you're always constantly learning and unlocking and unlearning very many things. So please go for it. Don't fear it. It's not boring. It's very interesting. And yes, there's money.
Money is very important.
Very important. Money keeps the world going.
So we've come to the end of today's episode. So thank you so much for joining us. And we urge you to subscribe to our channel, Mohammed Muigai LLP, on YouTube, for more episodes on In Chambers with Mohammed Muigai. Till next time, I'm your host, Moffat Gashoka.